Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, YouTube, and to people inside YouTube. I hope everything's working okay. I just updated my I don't know what that thing's called, like interface? No, not interface. And I thought it was all updated, and then I've just got a message saying ready to install and relaunch. Or hopefully that can just wait until the end of the talk. We shall see. Just to let you know, I do all this by myself. My partner helps me with some of the technical stuff, but when I'm actually live, I do everything by myself, which is a little bit hard, I have to say. I like to do it by myself because then there's nobody that I'm dependent on, or they're dependent on me for money. Yeah, so I can be a bit free to do as I like. As soon as you involve someone else, there's lots of other dynamics, possible dynamics. Yeah. So I have to apologize because I think that you people that listen are really patient with all my technical issues. I know it's free, the talk, but I can imagine still it's irritating. Like you go to listen to a talk and then she has like half an hour of technical issues. Funny. Okay, so let's begin. So I always like to begin, as you all know, and if you're new, you maybe don't know, with meditation. I know that's a very unpopular word in the non-dual community, because in the non-dual community it's like, we don't need to do anything to become enlightened, we can be as effed up as we like, we can be as rude, we can be as mean as we like, and we're still enlightened. And so the idea of doing meditation is very spiritual or hippie or progressive. It's illusory because there is no self to do it. But yeah, I like to do it. So tough titty. Yeah, and to those that enjoy it as well, woohoo! I really enjoy meditating, although in my life I don't call it meditating. I just kind of sit there or lay. Yeah, just doing nothing. Yeah, it feels so restorative for me. Yeah. And also I love to walk as well. So this morning I counted it. I never normally count it, but I did 3 hours just sitting. Like I woke up at 7 a.m. and then I didn't really get out of bed. I did get out of bed to make myself a tea and to go to the toilet. And I also did my Wim Hof breathing, 6 rounds of Wim Hof, and then I didn't get up until 10 o'clock. I wasn't sleepy. I did some music meditation, and it wasn't tiredness, it was just like the joy of just being in bed and lathering. I don't think you can say that. Lathering in nothingness. Basking in nothingness. Lathering doesn't quite work, but it's a nice image, you know, like being really soaped up. And then I did half an hour German learning while I was walking, and then did like an hour and 40 or 50 minutes walk with Khaleesi. Just the silence and a little bit of music. It's just so heaven. So in the end, it's like almost 5 hours of just doing sweet FA. Sweet FA. And what I find so interesting is that most people can't do that. They have to be doing something. So rest to most people is like watching TV, reading a book, listening to an audio book, browsing the internet. And to me, that's not rest. It's enjoyable, but it's not rest. And I think a lot of people get tied up in this notion that they have to be doing something in order to be important. Yeah. It took me many years. Like I did 5 years of intensive Buddhist practice where I did long retreats. I did Vipassana, and I think that's like 10 hours of meditation a day, but other retreats as well, like I built up to that. You just really get used to just sitting in your own energy. And at first it can be really painful, and even for me sometimes it can be uncomfortable, but not so much now. Your mind is used to doing something, your ego is used to getting strokes by how much it can get done, and not being a worthless human that just sits around. And this isn't talking about sitting around in depression or sitting around browsing the internet. It's just like a deep relaxation into yourself. Yeah. So as you can tell, I really like just sitting. And I don't know if I promote it enough, because I don't really see it as a practice. It's just bathing and lathering in what you are. But I'm happy in these talks to put a title on it and call it meditation, because that's what it kind of looks like, I suppose. Yeah. But just without it being an activity. Like meditation sounds like an activity that you're doing to get somewhere. And yeah, so there's different meditation practices that I recommend. But there's the most easiest is just not doing anything, but that's not for everybody. Like, I don't mean not doing anything and sitting there getting stressed or panicked by your mind. Like, that's not what's happening. It's more just like not doing anything, and like the mind naturally settles by itself. And the body settles and it slips into a more expansive place. But if you find that you're getting caught up in loads of thoughts and discomfort, that can be what happens at first. But if it's not calming down, then that's not the right one for you. Then the other practice that I recommend is the mindfulness of breathing, which is counting your breath. So every time you breathe in, you count 1, and then up to 2, 3. So you ascend with each breath in, and then when you get to number 10, you start again. Boop. So it's like a circle. And what we can do is we can count without concentrating. So if we're not concentrating on doing it, then we'll end up at like 942. But so the point to it is just bringing your attention back to the present moment and to your breath. But it's not like a race, and it's not like a judgment, and it's not like a comparison. That's what the mind loves. Like, who can I beat? Who can I be better than? I can do it continuously for half an hour. I'm better than all other seekers that come to this channel. Let's see if I can set a world record breaker. I know, I'm going to apply for the Guinness Book of Records to be the one that can do the most mindfulness of breathing without going off into daydream. Yes, that's what I will do. Who am I better than? I must be better than them. I must be better than them. Them. And you're sitting in your own room. There's nobody to compare yourself to, but internally you're still in competition with something, yourself really. And then there's the, oh, I'm rubbish at it, I can't do it, it's hopeless, nothing's going to fix me. There's that attitude. There's all these different attitudes, and it's every time you notice that happening, you just bring your attention back to this moment, just back to what's happening. Just realised I can turn this light off while it's still light outside. I think. Have a look. Yeah. I can just turn it down maybe. Yeah, so it's just I've forgotten what I was saying then. Yeah, but so your mind goes off in a distraction, and it's realizing that and just bringing it back to the breath, like no judgment, no, it's not about you getting somewhere, it's not about you becoming super enlightened and the best possible student, the one with the biggest, whatever biggest, boat, tree. It's just really seeing that and then just coming back, seeing that and coming back. That's all the practice is. It's so profound. It's just a training. Then the next one is putting your attention into the I am. So the I am is the initial sense of being before I am better than, I am worse than, I am a name, I am good, I am white, I am black, I am purple. So the initial I am. It's a bit of a trick thing because if you can't really do it, because then that would imply that there's two, but you can seemingly do it. So just go with that. Just ignore the fact that you can't really do it, but you can seemingly do it. And the next one is with consciousness. So putting your attention in consciousness. Again, you can't really do it. You can't put your attention in consciousness, because who would be this you that puts its attention in consciousness? And if consciousness is ever present, how could you, which is movement in time, do that? Yeah. But there is seemingly a feeling of doing it. So just go with that. Don't get too complex about it. I know what the mind's like. You can seemingly put your attention back in the attention, back into its own personal attention. And you can seemingly like put your attention present and you come to this feeling of I am. But it's not subject-object really. Yes. Yeah, you don't need to get too complex about it, because ultimately there is no one that can do it. It's something that's happening. But the mind, but I can seemingly give description of something, and that can either happen there or not. Just like if I told you how to bake a cake, you can listen to the instructions and seemingly do it or not. It doesn't actually imply individuation, but it seemingly implies that to a mind that thinks in opposites. So don't get too caught up in that. There is something happening. There is a seeming practice being given, and just do it. Just do it. Do it, dude. Do it. Yeah. Das ist all. Okay, here we go. You're going to start. I'm going to dong my big gong. Okay. We begin. We begin. So the title is today, Does Non-Duality Judge Vladimir Putin? Vladimir Putin. Vladimir is such an unfortunate name in the West, I have to say. Isn't that Dracula's name? Vladimir? Vladimir Dracula? Where is it that Vladimir is like a really evil character? It must be Dracula, eh? Ich weiß es nicht, I don't know. Oh, got so excited I dribbled down my top. Excuse me. Yeah, so just to comment, it's a bit of an unfortunate name. So, okay. So as most of you are aware, maybe actually if you're in Western countries, it's being called an invasion. So Vladimir Putin has invaded Ukraine. And maybe you're in certain countries that are not aligned with the West and not democracies. Maybe you're being told that he is going in there to help ethnic Russians because they're being did he say genocide, or I can't remember what he said, but there's he's helping them and he's just going to stabilize that. That's all he's doing. So I don't know what country you come from. I would advise everybody to not listen to mainstream media and to try to follow information from alternative sources. Maybe if I get time later, I'll link some different sources in the box below. I don't know what Vladimir's intention is, but he's obviously doing something horrific in Ukraine, and I would call it an invasion, the same way that the United States and United Kingdom, I don't know if there were other countries involved, but definitely those two, I'm sure there was, invaded Iraq in 2002. Like they went in there and they're changing something about what's happening in that country. And in both cases, in 2002, we were told the Western people were told it was because they had weapons and that Saddam Hussein was evil. And Putin is saying that it's because of NATO and because the way they're treating native Russians, ethnic Russians, I think they say. So there's always like the stories from the different countries, and everyone can spin a story dependent on what suits them. But whatever the case is, whatever he's doing, which it looks to me and a lot of people report like it's an invasion, it's horrific to put violence onto anyone, no matter what the reason is. Even if there is horrific war crimes going in there, you can't fix it by war. Like, so even if that is the case, that's what they said with Saddam Hussein, that he was doing horrific things and building nuclear weapons, which they later couldn't find the nuclear weapons. But even if he is, war is never going to be the answer, because what you're going to do to that country is you're going to traumatize the people, and then they're going to come after you. Like, people can only take a certain amount of abuse before they crack, and a certain amount of violence before they begin to get into the mentality of revenge. I mean, imagine if it was you sitting there and your mother was horrifically raped and killed in a war. I mean, what would you do? Or your sister, or your child, or your daughter, or your son, or your father, your uncle, your best friend. Imagine if you saw that happen to lots of people, to your whole community. I mean, that is a disaster. It is a disaster. It is a disaster to use violence. I also understand the argument that if you don't use violence and they're going to kill you, I understand the argument, but it just seems like a nightmare. And I'm sure that what I'm saying is super simplistic and doesn't actually do justice to the situation. So the question is what does non-duality judge Vladimir Putin just like the way God would, like he is bad? So he is low consciousness, maybe you'd say in non-duality circles, or he is unconscious of himself, or low frequency or low vibration would be said in spirituality, in the hell realms. So before I answer that question, so that's what I'm saying other people might say, but before I answer that question, we have to talk about what non-duality is. Oh, I apologize. I've got dribbling, I've got burping. What is going on with my body? I'm not normally like that, just sitting there like burp. What am I? That's what I say now, eh? We can twist any story. Yeah, so what is non-duality? That's an amazing question. What is non-duality? So most people in this society go around with the perspective that they are somebody inside the bodies, which to me seems so weird now, like really alien and like bizarre. And they attach to things. So they attach to their status in society, where they live, their nationality, their ideas, their projections, their habits, their ways of being, their family, with their father or mother or child, or good or bad. They attach to this identity. There is an attachment to this identity and a belief that that is the experiencer. So that identity that you think yourself to be is an actual experiencer that's inside the body. And that person has free will and autonomy to move this body and to interact with all these separate objects in the world. And that is an illusion. The person in which you think yourself to be is actually an experience happening in who you actually are. So that which you believe yourself to be, and even feel like you are, is an experience in who you are. And when there is this identification with that person, there is suffering, what I call suffering, a contraction and a feeling bound to this body, and a taking life super seriously. And that isn't who you are. Who you are is beyond that. It's not a name, it's not a form, it's not an idea, it's not a feeling, a sensation. It's something that is experiencing, but yet cannot be found in anything, and is all things. You could call it no thing, while simultaneously being everything. It's not a consciousness which is separate from things, but we can call it consciousness, as long as you don't feel like consciousness is a separation, is a position in some way. But I can't teach you who you are, because who you are is free. Who you are isn't something that you can get. It's total freedom. The you is appearing in it. So the you is thinking that, oh yeah, I'm listening to this and I'm understanding it, I'm nearly there, I get what she means. But that's always you. That which isn't you is watching without any opinion, any feeling. If you want to name the feeling of what it feels like, you could say love, but it's not personal love, it's not a love which you can own. It's just there experiencing. And the person cannot grab hold of that because the person is something that's in front of it. The problem is, so you have like the consciousness, if that's what you want to call it, and then the person, you're looking through this person, and this person is always owning everything and like grabbing hold of everything. And so even when I talk about this message, the person grabs hold of it and owns it. But that which is experiencing, the actual experiencer, which doesn't ever move, is always here, never leaves, never goes into time, that is free. But it's just this energy is in this, and that is always there. And that is actually hearing the words, but it's not judging the words, it's not interpreting the words, that's this part. But this part believes it's so real, it kind of takes up all the space and all the attention, so it feels like there is an energy that's contracted and bound to this. And when this seemingly is hidden, so you You've forgotten that who you are is boundlessness, is freedom beyond the person, which is what you are. And so that's why it gets so confusing. You know, in the beginning I recommend meditation, and then this person does it, and then the person thinks that it's going to get to non-duality, whereas non-duality is here. That consciousness is here. It's not something about you improving yourself or you getting to something in time. It's what is timeless now, what is free now, what is alive and awake now, right here. Expanded, alive, vibrant. Person is always trying to be something. I am free. What is here that's not trying to be anything? That cannot be found, but yet is experiencing instantaneously. So you hear my voice and you think it's someone in time hearing, but actually there is simply hearing happening. There is seeing happening. There is feeling happening. And there's not really a subject which is in relationship to an object. There is that happening. It's instantaneous, this part of experiencing. It doesn't move in time, and it's like love. A person could describe it as love, but in itself it's just love without knowing it's love. It just is. But it's free, it's totally contented in what it is. And that's the experiencer of all things. That's what's looking out of my eyes now and looking out of those eyes. It's like if you put a light in a paper bag. So you put a torch in a paper bag and you poke lots of holes in the bag. The light shines out of all those holes, but it's one light, and it's like that. So it's one light looking through multiple angles. And the reason that you don't think my thoughts is because it's looking through that particular hole with that particular thoughts. It's not looking through this hole with these particular thoughts. So the thoughts remain in this body. I know that sounds weird. And this is free. It doesn't move in time, your essence. It's not something you can get in time. It's not something you can talk about. I mean, I know I'm talking about it, but you can't sit there and like really talk about this. It's just here, now, vibrating, free in itself. So does this, which I'm describing, judge Vladimir Putin? No. This, what I'm describing, the Absolute, loves the Vladimir Putin, the Hitler, the Lisa, the you, everybody the same. It's absolute love. It does not judge. It doesn't mean that on the human level we don't cast it as bad and say it's bad. But from the absolute perspective, the nature of who we are is absolute love. So Putin is loved as much as everything else. In the Putin character, I suspect there is lots of suffering. But from the absolute, it is free, looking through that. And it's the same looking through as what's looking through there and here. So when Vladimir looks at you, and when you look at him, it's the same looking in both directions. However, it goes through different filters, and his is a Vladimir Putin filter. So from the perspective of the absolute, Vladimir Putin is perfection. Just like the sunlight's perfection, just like the pollution's perfection, the trees, the ground, the table, Khaleesi, maybe gnawing at a flea. The weather, there is no judgment. Consciousness doesn't desire for humans to be better or worse, or kind or loving. That's all personal. Often when this begins to be seen, which isn't a personal seeing, then it begins to change the human into most probably a nicer person. Like we tend to do shitty things when we're suffering. Sometimes we do shitty things by accident. And sometimes it's like deeply unconscious. But when we purposely do shitty things, it tends to be through suffering. I can imagine that Putin has a lot of paranoia. And very detached from his feelings. But that's my judgment, and I don't know. It could be, surprisingly, that he's like the most happiest person alive. I doubt it, seriously. It could be like some sort of brain thing. Oh, pardon me again. My apologies. Is it okay to burp in stream? I've been told off sometimes for doing that, saying how rude it is. And I wonder if it's also like really deeply relaxing for people, because it's like, I'm really imperfect. I burp, I fart, I poop. And part of what we do to leaders is we try to either make them all good or all bad, which is a delusion in our minds. It's what leads to war, actually. So at the moment, like a lot of people most probably make Vladimir Putin all bad, which is not healthy. And the West all good or something, which isn't healthy. That's not the truth. It's never the truth. It's so much more complex than that. But what we tend to do is like something that we enjoy or like, we try to make it all good, and then it's really disturbing when it doesn't fit into that. So for some people it might be really disturbing, or you might find your mind like making up a story of how wonderful it is that I do those types of things. Neither of those are true. It's just something that comes out. It's just I went to Buddhist school for so many long years, and all the women there, like you normally got split up into men and women, and they were all like, gas is a very natural part of life. And I had to go through years of listening to these, most of them tended to be older women, letting rip, and I just got used to it. And haven't really challenged that. It's quite relaxing, actually. I don't do it in front of, like in front of my mum's friends or something. I try to keep some social decency, and I don't do it too much in front of my partner with the windy pops, because I think it's gets too much, you know, when there's also sexuality arising. Such a funny video on YouTube about that, about this woman, like her partner farts, and so she decides to start farting in front of him all the time, and then he just can't bear it. That's so funny. Yeah. Okay. You got to keep a bit of mystery with your partner, I think. Okay, so if anybody has any questions, I see that there's absolutely no questions in Skype. It maybe is because I gave such a profound introduction. You're all just like gobsmacked. Your jaw is just like, wow. That was just absolute pure brilliance. I mean, you really said something that we didn't know then, and I'm just taking it on board and considering the brilliance of it. Yes. Or it could just be that a lot of people are switched off. Either way, you have to write to me on Skype, and my Skype address is LisaCairns12. You can always find this information in the box below, I think, or on my website on the live stream. I'm pretty sure it's in the box below. Something questioning myself. Box below. Box below. Yes. Okay. Schumann. Hey, Schumann. So lovely to hear from you. Hi, Lisa. Thank you for the meditation. I wonder if the current crisis could also provide the opportunity for a greater movement towards love and a movement away from worldly and mental values. The saying, "It was the depths of winter that I realized my eternal summer," that springs to mind. That's so sweet, and I like it that you say springs. We just got to get autumn in there too. Yeah. Yeah, I've heard people saying this too, you know, we just come out of this C word and then we move into the war word. And it is possible that through a movement towards more darkness, more light comes in. The Buddha, his teaching was, or one of his teachings was, there's so many different interpretations of his teaching, was the Four Noble Truths. And I think the first or second Noble Truth is, I always forget, like the recognition that life is suffering. What happens to most people in our society, I think, is they get a good enough upbringing. I'm not saying they have a great upbringing. I think there's many issues in the way we bring and raise up children in our society, but they get an upbringing which allows them to get enough pleasure in order to not question it. So the body is satisfied by enough pleasure to not question their predicament. That you can imagine it, like if you grew up in a wealthy environment, like not super rich, but a wealthy community and a wealthy environment, like you wouldn't want to question that too much. Like one of the questions is why you as opposed to other people, or look too deeply into the fact that lots of people don't have stuff, or where you get your products from, or what led you to being wealthy, or what the meaning of money is, or the different classes that we've had in society, the distribution of wealth. So if you've been brought up in that society, it's maybe not a conscious thing, but there'll be some part maybe that wants to continue with that pleasure. So therefore questioning that pleasure is not going to be something you do, just like a drug addict. You know, when you're really addicted to drug, you don't want to think about the bad things in which drugs do to you. And in a way, Buddhism, I think they called it like the land of the gods. It's like you have good enough environment to not question. So I think we've got that a lot in the West. I think in the East, they're just struggling for survival a lot of the time. Not all the time, but I think there's a lot of poverty. There's a lot of poverty in the West as well. And when you're in poverty, you're just struggling to survive. So either way, like being in the lands of gods where you have enough pleasure, you don't want to question things, or you're in poverty. Like the poverty, you're just struggling to survive, so you're not even thinking about suffering or not. And when you're in the land of the gods, you don't want to think about it. So either one of those stops this investigation. But when you get to a point where you really realize life is suffering, so you're not just running to try to get the next meal ticket, which you won't really have the ability to think about whether life is suffering or not in that. You won't have the time. And also the other one, there isn't much of a momentum to think about these things. But when you get to the point where life is suffering, then you'll begin to open doors and ask questions. And you'll begin to not want to do what everyone else is doing. And the wisdom that is told to you locally, from local sources, will begin to be seen as redundant, especially if you notice that other people around you are suffering. And so when that begins to happen, then I can see that there'll be a transformation. Like I noticed that a lot of people that come into non-duality have been through a lot of suffering. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong thing. I'm looking in the light. My lamp, rather than in there. Sorry. Yes, always beware of mainstream narrative when it comes to these huge topics. Truth is far more radical and nuanced than the nation states would dare to have us know. Yeah. Yeah, if I get time, I will link some videos below, which can give you different sources, saucy sources. Marika, hey Marika, hope I'm saying your name right. Oh yeah, we spoke last week. Hi Lisa, I have the impression that when we spoke last time, you were about to say something really interesting and I interrupted you, which is a pattern of mine. I still feel sorry for not being able to hear what you would have said. Oh, I'm sure it's fine. Is that, is that an issue? Like the idea of missing out? That something was just about to give you a nugget and then you missed out. Intellectual information isn't super important. It's helpful. But the most important part is the silence of who we are. Right here. Right now. This. Thank you, Marika. Schumann says thank you. That's all the questions in Skype. Amazing. Amazing. Okay, Varios, I will call you. Whoops. Whoops. Hello. Yeah, I can hear you. Hang on a sec. You're not going through Skype. I'm not sure why. Hang on, not going through to the stream. Yeah. I don't know why that is. Can you just speak again? Speak. Let me just try turning it off and off. And now? Yeah, too funny. No, it's my problem. Just let me try something else. Just 1 second. Oops. Skype. Now speak. Yeah, where did you go? Why? Yeah, I don't know if I can fix that, so I'm just going to do this. I think this will work. So now if you speak.
Hello, Lisa.
Hello. So hopefully people can hear you through my microphone.
Okay.
Yeah, so how can I help you today?
I was a little bit spontaneous. This problem or something is, I've mentioned it many times to you before.
Yeah.
Just a little bit about the topic, about Putin and everything is going, and we're talking a lot about this in the group that I'm following, and they say that the war is kind of a reflection of everything who we are, like every one of us, like living in the universe, contribute to everything what is happening. And also we learn to use the situation to reflect on ourselves instead of watching news and blaming the one side or another side. I have a lot of internal tension and internal conflict during my days and weeks and months, and as I'm meditating more, like I'm getting more sensitive, I react more to the environment. And even now, when I began to speak with this problem that I just had in mind, a minute ago it seems not so problem anymore, but when I react to people's energy, like I have a neighbor where I live, and he likes playing computer games all the time. And like I remember this morning waking up, and he had a very good night's sleep, and okay, and I just know it when he started to play these computer games. It was about 8 o'clock in the morning, and he started.
Yeah.
And I tolerated, and it was okay, like for an hour or something, and then it's too much, and it's a free day for me. I can do whatever I want, so I decided to leave. I went to exercise, to drive to school to exercise, then I had a quick meal and I left for work. Like I have an office and I can sit and do whatever I want. And the reason why I choose it is I have much more creative energy. Like my thoughts are free, and I think whatever I want. Watch a movie. Well, when I start watching a movie, it's not so free anymore because I get involved emotionally too, and it's very strange. And then I came back from work, and then and my mindset is a problem. Like my neighbor is.
Yeah, so let's go with that. So can I just interrupt you and go to that, because it's a lot that you've said. So let's just move to that for a moment. So I'm also an empath. So on the human level, I'm very sensitive to energies and to other people. But you have to be really clear with yourself that freedom isn't about the energies that you feel in your body. So it can, as you meditate more, you can become more sensitive, and then the idea becomes that you've got to be in this blissful state or in these certain energies all the time. And yeah, that's more pleasurable, but that's not the actual freedom. And when you believe that is freedom, then seeking will begin, and then there will be an aversion to it, and it will become even worse. So I'm not denying that we feel people's energy. I think that this is something that's massively understated by psychologists and by the West. We never really talk about being able to feel people's emotions and feelings, which we totally can. Like we do have this like telepathic nature in us, the same way ants do, and the same way like all animals that live in packs do. But if you believe that's your freedom, then it's going to create suffering in you, because you can't really accept what's happening. And it's really, that's the freedom. The freedom is a deep relaxation into what you are now. It's not dependent on environments or situations or feelings. It's really dependent on yourself as that I am and as that empty looking. It can become a new obsession of the mind. And it's really seeing it's not true. It can become like an earworm. Like suddenly, rather than being paranoid about people physically out on the street and what they think of you and what they're doing, it's like now paranoid about people's energies that are going to invade you.
There was a period like I was not accepting happening things in job. Now the job is okay, I can tolerate it. Okay, now I want my spare time. Where is my spare time? I want to relax. Why did you? Well, but I completely follow your point, and everyone says me that, and they are not all teachers who say the same.
Yeah. I think that if you found a place where everybody's energy is gone, there will be another problem if you don't see now that the freedom is there all the time in the good and the bad energies. The mind will pick another problem when you go to another place. Like we're never going to get to this paradise in life where we're all done. We're like, okay, this is good, this is good, this is good, because there's always going to be problems in life. It's part of the nature of life. It grows and then it contracts. It grows and it contracts. So it's really seeing like what is free in all of that. Otherwise, it wouldn't be freedom if it's dependent on life, if it's dependent on environment.
Yeah, you have to accept pain too.
Yeah. And it's like not believing the mind. The mind always is finding reasons and excuses to suffer.
For a while, something you told me before, like think about what you like and not about what you don't like. And it seemed like I could understand it much better than before. Like it was an intensive period. Yeah, I would leave my flat and go training instead and do whatever. It doesn't mean I have to push myself and sit as much as I can, like
Yeah.
in my flat. Thank you so much, Liz.
Yeah, with pleasure. Yeah, lovely to speak with you.
Before.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Hey, Beth. Hi, Gregor. Hi, Lisa. I don't need to demonize Putin to feel compassion for the human beings in Ukraine. I see this Gregor person clinging to compassion. It cannot let go. What to do? Hey, Gregor. Yeah, compassion is a beautiful feeling. If you can access compassion, that's wonderful. A lot of people can't access compassion, like self-compassion and compassion for others. Sometimes compassion can also get mixed up with childhood trauma, and what we believe to be compassion is actually us projecting what happened to us in childhood or bad experiences in childhood or in your life onto the other person. So you're not seeing the person as they are and really having compassion for them. You're seeing your own suffering in them. And when that happens, like, you can investigate it. You could work with someone, investigate it and go deep into it. You could investigate it by yourself. There's so many different things you can do. Understanding the chakras it's attached to, understanding the thoughts that come from the past, and yeah, all types of things. But essentially, like, it's not true. So the mind goes into these stories when they're happening, like, and you have to see, there's a part of you that sees it's not true. Like, your stories aren't true if that's what they are. Underneath those stories is a natural compassion for the person. But the truth is this I am and this empty looking, and the stories are perspective on things, and you don't have to clear them all out in order to be free. But often the stories become so strong that lots of seeking is involved in them, like seeking to avoid it. So it's just recognizing them for what they are and that they're not your truth. So whatever you see in the victims, the pain that you feel for them, that is a production of your body-mind mechanism, and that's not true. That's not what they're actually feeling. Doesn't mean you don't have compassion, but that empathy isn't actual truth. It's a production of what's happening in that body, and you can investigate it and look at it, but your truth is the I am and the empty looking, and you're not guilty or responsible for those people. And it's not happening to you. It's happening to you as everything, but on the character level. I hope that makes sense, Gregor. Thank you. Hey, Isabel. Hi, Sebastian. Hey, Sebastian, long time no hear. I feel deep helplessness in my solar plexus. I feel into it a lot, but it hardly changes, and it keeps being reflected by outside situations. Can you help me? I don't know if I can help you, Sebastian. We've spoken in depth, I think, about it in the past. And yeah. So there's that pain going on in the solar plexus, and it's great you've named it, and it's great that you've seen the attachments that are from the past, the seeking energy. But can you also sense the stillness that's here? Like, I'm just looking at the sky at the moment. It's like that beautiful time between day and night, like the dusk, where everything's beginning to get slightly darker and the sun's going down and the horizon has the yellow tint, and then the sky is a darker blue. And it's so still. And that is who you are, this stillness. You're not the character, you're not the feelings, you're not the ideas. You're the stillness that's right here, this experiencing that's totally free. Thank you, Sebastian. Marika, I feel like there is bright light in my chest. Thanks again. Oh, beautiful. Bright light. Yeah. I had an experience once where I understood that enlightenment, awakened, whatever, was a total lack of human emotions. I know it wasn't the awakened state, but it was nice. Yeah, it's not exactly the absence of human emotions. Yeah, it is actually, but that sounded, for some reason I read that in as dark, like somebody that's cut off, but it is like the absolute is just love. It's no judgment, it's not good or bad, it's not sad or needy, it's just love. So it's not blankness or deadness, it's love. Deep rest, everything that you wanted, not wanted as in like all the money and all these sorts of things or pleasure, wanted as in deep relaxation. There's no longer looking for anything else. There are no more questions again. There's maybe lots of questions in YouTube. I'm just going to go to the toilet and then I will come back and answer the questions in YouTube. Let me just put the microphone on default. Okay, I am back. So I'm going to read some questions off YouTube. Question: what role takes bliss discipline in spirituality and other goals we choose in life? I mean, in the end, this is mysterious. This is for Michael. What's happening is totally and utterly mysterious. I just have to check my microphone's on. Yes. And although I would love to say to you, if you do A, it equals B, it's not quite like that. Like, who is this you that is going to arrive at freedom? That freedom is that which is looking through, is here, is now, is already. There is consciousness, right? It's not unconsciousness, there's consciousness, and that is the birthright of all things. It's here, instantaneous. It's not like here in 10 minutes. It's not something you can switch on and off. Who would be conscious of that? How would somebody then be like, oh, I'm just going to switch consciousness on? Who would be conscious of that happening? So it's the birthright to have consciousness. So this idea of you that moves in time, getting somewhere, is an impossibility. What you can do is you can work on your personal character. And some people say that as the personal character becomes more light, then there's more possibility of this recognition. That feels like it makes sense here because, like, when I speak to people, I can't really speak to somebody that's like deeply suffering and for them to hear this, because they're so focused on themselves. When there's deep suffering, it tends to be you come into this subject through deep suffering, but then it tends to be you have to balance out the person to an extent, and then when the person's more balanced, then this can be heard. Because if you're in deep suffering, you're so desperate, then you'll cling on to non-duality, or you'll make it about you, and it will become about being saved by non-duality from your suffering. Whereas when the character's more balanced and understands why all these difficulties were arising in the character, then something beyond you can be heard. And then it's like that gets pulled forward, even though this isn't really how it happens. It feels like that. Like it gives the opportunity for it to shine through. So in a really crass way, you could say, like, there is the sunlight in the sky, but when there's like really thick clouds, it can't be seen that the sunlight from this side of the clouds. And then as the clouds get more dense, then it's seen that there's always the sunlight. So, but that's not about that character waking up. This is the great confusion, because then that person thinks, okay, I settle myself out and then I wake up. But that's such an illusion that there's a you there that's going to wake up. Who is this you? It's like the clouds believing that they're going to wake up. Like the you is an illusion. There's thoughts and feelings and ideas appearing, which give a structure of an appearance of you, but it's not that wakes up. And I also really balance balancing out the character, because If your character is really disbalanced, then more than likely it will create a disbalanced life. Not all the time. Sometimes tragedy can hit and it's nothing to do with your character, like being in a war zone or something. If you have like disbalance in your character and a lot of like stress and problems, then you'll tend to attract that and create that in the external. So I super recommend doing that. And that is a combination to me of listening to non-duality, like keep seeping yourself into this message, and then at the same time like really investigating what it is to be human and doing loads of different therapy modalities to help balance out, like learning psychology, learning different psychological tricks to help you, like tapping or EMDR, Osho release, somatic therapy, cognitive therapy, like Buddhism, Buddhist techniques, Wim Hof breathing, pranayama, breathing, yoga, Tai Chi, massage, Ayurveda, Chinese medicine, acupuncture. Like there's so much you can do to help balance yourself. But that takes commitment. Like that really takes commitment, because it's not always easy doing all these things. Like when I first started meditating, it was so hard just sitting for like 15 minutes and going on retreats where you did like 6 or 7 hours meditation a day. Now it's like, oh yes, baby. Don't have to do anything for 7 hours. Sometimes there is a lot of energy in the body that needs to be expressed, but often it's like, yeah, baby, sitting. Pure excuse to just sit. Sit on my ass. Yes. Yes. Sorry, I get distracted. My partner comes to watch Khaleesi, and it's so cute watching Khaleesi. Her little reaction, she's like, holds her paw. Is it really time? But now what she likes to do is she likes to go and pretend that she doesn't care. She's so funny. So she'll go up to him and pretend she doesn't care, and then when he tries to put the lead on her, she'll run away. But she's so super interested. As soon as he came in, she's like... Then he comes in, she's like... Oh yeah, what was the question? So yeah, and it really takes commitment, you know. It's easy to bounce around like these different therapies, like this doesn't work, this doesn't work. It really takes commitment, and it's really effort shifting the personality. Trust me, I've done lots of therapy. I still do therapy on myself. I still do self-care. Like it's an endless thing. I still work on my communications dynamics. Like I reread recently, like Non-Violent Communication. So good, that book. By the original person that made it up. I forget his name. There's lots of books on it, but by the original one. Yeah. You know, I endlessly strive to improve my character, but it's not my freedom. Like Khaleesi. Lisa messes up, she gets it wrong. She has emotions, she has disturbances. But that's not the freedom. The freedom is that which is watching, that which is here. Right here. Always. It's not in behavior, it's not in what you do, it's in that which is looking. And I've found my characters come so much more balanced, like since, you know, when I was 20, 19 when I left home. My God, I was so out of control of my emotions. Okay. Question: Dear Lisa, can you shine some light on the intelligence of the heart and its not being in time? So if you say it's not being in time, then I'm presuming what you mean is like the I am, love. So all things come from this beingness, which to me is consciousness and the I am together. It's like a beingness. It's not something you can grab, but it's everything. It's life. It's all of this. And that is ultimate intelligence. Because look at it. Look at the creativity of it all. I presume that's what you mean, because you say it's not being in time, like you're not meaning your heart, as in like follow the heart, which is beautiful, because in a way, it's like as this begins to wake up more in the person, then you become more in connection to who you truly are. So it's like that can spring forward, and it's got more of a pure path through you. Trying to speak this sometimes reminds me of learning a different language. It's so hard to put this into words, like to translate it. Because when you're suffering less, and it's like there's a connection to what you are, and then your wants and your desires on a human level come directly from that, rather than loads of filters of seeking, of running away, avoiding. I mean, the heart is everywhere. It's in all of this. Like every appearance that's happening. Okay, let's look in Skype, see if there's any questions. Marshall Rosenberg. That's from Beth. Yeah, really good non-violent communication from him. Yes, the Vincio. Just put yes. I call you now. Where is my headset? There it is. Oh yeah, I'm not going to put the headset in, am I? Just gonna call. Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, sorry. I've been asked not to have that sound on here, but... Hello.
Hey, hello, hi.
Hey.
So, my question is about, I have a problem with sitting silent. Like, my mind just starts singing songs. And, like, I'm supposed to do what my mind, like, wherever my mind takes me, I'm supposed to go, so I just start singing.
And that's a problem?
It doesn't really do anything, so I don't know, I guess I'm not satisfied. Like, I can't sit silent.
You can't, sorry, I just got distracted by a baby crying outside. Sorry. You can't sit in silence. That's okay.
Yeah, most of the time.
Yeah, that's okay. Have you ever practiced yoga?
No.
Maybe try yoga. But that's why in India they had all these different practices, because one shoe doesn't fit all. So maybe do yoga, tai chi, pranayama, breathing. It's okay if you can't sit in silence. You can maybe find if you do these other practices, then it'll become easier. But maybe it never does, and that doesn't mean that freedom won't be revealed. Like, freedom is your essence. It's that which is conscious now. Like, you're not unconscious, there is consciousness. There is this awakeness. There is everything that's happening. Like, life is here. You're not in deep sleep. There is this happening. And then there's a person that goes in time which says, I can't be in silence. That is wrong. And that's okay, but it's just not true. It's just that it doesn't suit everybody. Yoga is such a profound practice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so, thank you.
Okay, thank you for calling. Bye. Hi again, Lisa. Is your body now just an instrument that you can pick up or drop at as the situation dictates? What would it look like if I dropped the body? Like, it would just pass out on the floor, like, and then some sort of ethereal ghost will like move around the room or the space. I don't know what you mean by that. Or die, maybe you mean, like, oh, just die, just kill Lisa off, she fucked up her story. Let's just move on to another body. Oh, here we go. I'm in Prince Charming. Yep, good one. Got a white horse, good looking body, great hair, lots of money. Yeah, this is a good body. I'll keep this one for a while. And that one fucks up the game, but kill it. Into another. Here we go. Round 3. We're going to do a fantastic job in this one. Oh, crap. I have a very dysfunctional personality and nobody likes me. Okay, kill this one. Off we go. Next one. I'm only joking with you. Sorry, I meant a total detachment. Hi Lisa, is your body now just an instrument that you can pick up, that you can detach from or not in any situation? I don't think I would use the word detachment, because have you heard of disassociation? And detachment sometimes reminds me of disassociation. Have you ever seen someone disassociate? I've seen it happen a few times in traumatic situations, and yeah, they completely disassociate from the body. Like, even if you speak to them and really get them to be honest, like it happened to someone I know, and they said they felt like they weren't inside the body anymore, that they were watching from a distance, and that can sound so much like non-duality, eh? So I don't think I would call it detachment, although maybe I have in one of my many thousands of talks on YouTube. So if you do find me saying detachment, today I just don't feel like saying detachment. Happens. I would just say, like, to me, the feelings and the experiences are stronger. So when I feel emotions, they're stronger actually, rather than weaker. So the sensations in a way are more vibrant and more alive, pain and pleasure. But there is just this deep knowing that's not an activity. It's not something that's done by the person. It's something that's like woken up here. A deep knowing of this freedom. And it's like an expansive feeling. Like, so it's like my essence feels like it's everywhere, but it's looking through this character. So even though it's a long time ago that, well, not that long, but it feels like a long time ago now that the shift happened, so I find it hard to remember beforehand. But I feel like the feelings are more intense now. Like, I really feel them in the body. So it's like when I feel sad or something, I really feel it in the throat or the heart. It's like really in the heart. I really feel them. But there's this other thing that feels totally free. And to me, that's the most profound thing. Like, there's a certain amount you can do with the person and work on. Like, you can endlessly expand the person, but it's like you're in this paradigm of certain emotions and feelings and ways of being. Whereas this other element is like total freedom. But it's not something you get, it's something that's already here, that is you. It's like really that waking up. Like that no longer being hidden by seeking, and by the person believing it is a person. Yeah. And I can also act like a shithead. I don't know if you have that saying, I don't know what country you're from, in your language. Like a shithead in English means somebody that can produce shit in their behavior. So I'm really not perfect in my behavior. Like I still have this character that, you know, can be reactive or grumpy, not want to do things. I say that it's getting better through time. And I don't think that I'm like way worse than anybody else. Could be above average maybe, but also it's hard to tell. Could also be average. But I don't think it's like really bad, but I can also be a shithead. You shithead. We used to say that a lot at school. Yeah. Lloyd. Hi Lisa. Do you experience headlessness as described by Douglas Harding? It seems to arise a lot here. Have you thought on it? Hope you're having a great day. I used to have a friend actually who always used to tell me that she felt headless. And I never really knew what she meant by it. I knew Douglas Harding. And then one day we really talked about it. And I realized that it was most probably a similar feeling of what I'm talking about when I say energetic expansion, because she didn't feel like what she was trying to say, she didn't feel like she was located in the head. She felt like she was like really vast and really big. I don't know if that's the same as what you feel. Yeah. George says thank you George, pleasure. Sebastian smiles, smile back. Marshall Rosenberg, yeah. Isn't mortality an outcome of spirituality, and not the other way around, that mortality leads you to spirituality? Oh, morality, sorry, mortality. I was getting concerned there that you're going to be one of these suiciders. As soon as you get spiritual, you kill yourself. I was like, oh God. It's always, yeah, maybe I shouldn't make fun of that, eh? There's limits, Lisa, there's limits. You don't joke about people killing themselves. Got it. Pardon. Pas bien, Lisa. Sie ist schlecht, Mädchen. Isn't morality an outcome of spirituality and not the other way around, that morality will lead you to spirituality? I think that's a very complex question, because what is morality? Like, you do understand that the way in which humans survive is by consuming other objects. And this is part of the reason why we're having problems with global warming, because we're consuming so many objects that we're killing everything else off. And the balance of the ecology is coming all topsy-turvy. So, morality is very, like, that is a huge subject. Like, maybe we do that next week, like, what is morality? Because it's a self-defined thing which is very strongly imposed on us, because we have to live as these communal animals, and so we have it very strongly dictated what is good and bad to us. Most Western religions teach only morality. I think it's a really complex subject. I understand what you're saying. You're saying that if you go to Christianity, it's always about like the way you behavior. And whereas in spirituality, or more like New Age or Non-Duality, it's more about as you begin to know yourself better, then you begin to behave better. So I get that that's kind of what you're trying to say. But it's very relative. Like, I think also one thing that you have to accept in spirituality is that there is no morality. Like, in the end, for any one of us to survive, we have to continuously consume other objects. But we're just so much in denial of this as a society because we're so afraid of being bad. Just don't throw out your bins for a whole month. So normally it's like our bin gets full and we just like chuck it out. Like, do it as an experiment. I don't know what your name is. 22, something 22. So do it as an experiment. Like, do it for 2 months. Don't throw out your bins. Like, every time your bin gets filled, put it in your garage or put it somewhere and just look at all the things that you've consumed. And like, whatever is in the bin, you've most probably consumed a lot more. So say if you've got vegetables and stuff, all that's in the bin is like the peelings of the vegetables. So there's most probably a lot more than what's actually there. And all the plastic and all the cardboard. Like, every time you take paper, there's a tree that's been chopped down, and there's more than likely thousands and billions of animals that live in that tree. So just look at the paper recycling. Every time you order off Amazon, every time you drive your car, you're putting fire to gases. We kind of get into this like mentality, like, okay, we can be eco, and then that's the good way of being. But even if you're eco, you're still consuming so freaking much. And we just are so disconnected from that because we use this money to buy things, so we don't actually see that we're taking things from other animals and our environment, everything, whether it be the wood, the food, the vegetables. So, yeah. So morality is an interesting subject. We're very simplistic in our society. It's like, don't kill, don't steal. But all of that suits our society. We have so many rules. So it suits the society in which we live in. It makes us be able to live together. So I think in spirituality, like, what you have to really truly learn, which is a really hard pill to swallow, is that morality is an illusion. It's very, very, very scary and very painful because we're so attached to it. That's not me giving like free rein to people like Putin? Vladimir Putin. I don't even know how to say his name. I'm not saying and suggesting that at all. That's the last thing I'm saying. But I'm just questioning this idea of morality and the attachment that we have to it. I must be a good boy, must be a good girl, must be good boy, good girl, good boy, good girl, good boy, good girl. Khaleesi, I have seen her kill and roll on a chicken when we lived in Thailand. She was a free dog, a street roaming dog. And just have so much joy in it and playing with it before she properly killed it. Like, I did try to stop it, but obviously she doesn't want me to stop it. But she was totally free in that. There was no God up there judging her. She was just in the land of heaven. No identification. It was the instincts playing out. And it's really seeing that morality is another human illusion which we get attached to. Sometimes when we're waking up, we have to go through a period, not just waking up, sometimes after waking up, like really digesting that and going through a period of like letting badness stuff out, like letting like bad actions come out, bad thoughts come out, like our dark or shadow side. I'm not giving anyone free permission to be an asshole and do bad things. Like, that's not what I'm saying. Please don't do that. And that is very victimhood if you like, oh, she's saying I can do something bad to hear it go, chop everybody's head off. Boom, 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 boom. And it's all a dream. Boom, boom, boom. I'm just questioning this. And the judgments that we have are so simplistic. Good, bad. Good, 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 bad. Good, bad, 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 good, good. Oh, which one's bad or good anymore? Blah, blah, blah. And the shaming that we have in a society, like the news makes me want to vomit sometimes, the way it shames people and the way that it makes things so black and white. Yeah. I was confused. So live something 22 says, I was confused by all of this for so many years. Now I'm just befuddled. Befuddled. Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Yeah, I've spoken a lot. I just ask this answer this one last question, and then that's the end for today. Hi Lisa, I feel so sad and devastated by what's happening in Europe right now. Even though I live very far away, my heart is melting and disintegrating. It just wants to cry. Can you give me some perspective? I missed your call earlier and don't know if you mentioned anything. Love, Michael. Do I want to mention anything? Yeah, it's really sad what's happening in Europe. Yeah. I'm sure it can bring up a lot of people's traumas and fears. It's just, and that's all valid. I don't mean to dismiss that, but it's just also remembering a freedom that's beyond that. Yeah. I have talked about this today, Michelle. Oh, sorry, I can't say your name. Michelle, I think it is. Yeah, you can go back and listen to a talk earlier on. Thank you so much. I hated hearing that Hitler goes to the same places that Gandhi did. Thank you so much. I was nervous writing to you. Oh yeah, it was a pleasure. Lie. Ja. Okay, das ist genug für heute Abend. Just to let you know, in case you didn't know, I do a Zoom talk with a smaller group, and it's not recorded, so it doesn't go on the internet, on the 23rd of March, on a Wednesday, 23rd. And you can find that on my website. It's a little bit complicated when you go to book. It's so easy, but it's just complicated as in like it's not obvious, the buttons. So you just read, there's notes there and it'll tell you how to do it. Yeah, so you can find that. So it's a private, smaller group. It's not recorded, doesn't go on the internet, and you can join me then. Yeah. And I shall see you next Sunday. Also, I forgot, I do a retreat. Although it's not a live-in retreat, so I'm calling it a conference. It's like 7 days of talks, and you live close by in a beautiful town in the south of France. That's also on my website. That's under in-person events. So you can also go there. And it's a beautiful place in the south of France. The Midi-Pyrenees. Yeah. Beautiful nature. Yeah, so if you don't come to any of those events, then I will see you in the tube. So yeah, I really wish you everything. I wish you a beautiful week. And I shall see you next Sunday. Goodbye.